Hello students, this is Professor Valerie Pell at Wilbur Wright College. In this lecture, I'm going to go over how to create a topic sentence outline and how to add keywords and quotes to that outline so that you can have a map for your entire paper. Here's a brief overview of this video. We're going to review how to create an explicit thesis. We'll go over basic topic sentence outlining. We'll learn to revise topic sentences for our outline. We'll learn how to add a counter-argument section, and then we'll learn how to make our outline more robust by adding keyword details, quotes, and placeholders. Explicit thesis review. The explicit thesis has three parts. First, it has your topic. Your topic is the grammatical subject of your thesis, and it's essentially who or what your paper is about. It's the main thing that you're going to focus on in your paper. Then comes your claim. Your claim is the grammatical verb of your thesis statement, and it's what you're saying about the claim. Finally, you have your reasons. Your reasons are your support for the topic in the claim. So the reasons are why you are saying what your argument is about your topic-claim pair. Very often, your reasons will begin with a dependent clause, such as a because clause, or maybe a by clause, or some other sort of dependent clause that couldn't stand on its own, and that's in parallel structure. For our example today, our topic is going to be Cookie Monster. Our claim is going to be he's a negative role model for children. And we're going to have two reasons why he's a negative role model for children. And that's because he has poor grammar and poor diet. Okay, so to continue on, when we put together our topic, claim, and reasons, we end up having an explicit thesis. And here's an example as we put it into a sentence. So we might say something like this: Cookie Monster is a negative role model for kids because of his grammar and diet. So in this instance, when we look at this thesis statement, we see our topic, Cookie Monster. Then we see our claim is a negative role model for kids. That's a claim of value, is it not? Because we're saying that he's negative. And then we have our reasons clause. Notice it's a because clause. And in this case, we have multiple reasons. First, his grammar is bad. And second, his diet is bad. In an explicit thesis like this, you could have more than two reasons. You could have three, is often the norm in college papers, or you could have seven. It really depends on you and your paper. Why write an explicit thesis? It can seem sometimes that I'm asking you to be constrained, but there's some reasons behind this. First of all, as a writing instructor and someone who has struggled with writing when I was younger, I've learned to understand that there's power in grammar. There's power when you put your topic as the grammatical subject of your thesis, because that's one of the most strongest essential parts of the most strongest essential sentence in your entire paper. So our topic, again, is Cookie Monster. It really helps solidify that image. Then when we put the claim as the verb, again, it's making that active, and it's putting it in the most important place for a verb in the entire paper. So if you think about your topic claim pair as being sort of like a triangle, they're at the top. And then what happens is when we make them grammatically essential to the paper and to that thesis statement, that way that they are the most important things. They're super strong when they're put together. And then what happens is it forces our reasons of support into a foundational and supportive role rather than essential to the grammar. So they come in and help support that topic and claim, but the topic and claim are the essential parts. So why write an explicit thesis continued? Well, if we do what I just asked you to do, if we put the topic as the subject, the claim as the verb, and your reasons in a dependent clause and parallel structure, you've essentially created a whole map of your paper. And that way you can very easily move that thesis into an outline. And an outline is just a more developed map of your paper. It's so much easier to know where you're going to go in your paper, especially a long paper, if you have a map. You wouldn't go cross country without a map. Even if, whether it's a paper map or an electronic map gadget in your pocket, you need a map to get where you're going. And having that outlined, having that explicit thesis all help you to do. Basic topic sentence outline. The basic topic sentence outline. So this kind of topic sentence outline is the simplest outline type, and we're going to use it to move step by step to a more sophisticated outline type. This type of outline just contains your thesis and your topic sentences, and it's useful as a basic map for your essay. Now let's look at an example of a topic sentence outline. And for this example, we're only having 2 reasons of support. You might have more than that, or fewer, depending on your writing situation. So first we would start with the thesis. We remember our thesis is Cookie Monster is a negative role model for kids because of his grammar and diet. Then we could take that and create a very redundant topic sentence for a section of this paper. So for our thesis reason 1, we would be very similar. We would say Cookie Monster is a negative role model for kids because of his grammar. See how we've taken it exactly from the thesis above and just put it together for this section of your paper. Then we would do it for the thesis reason 2. Cookie Monster is a negative role model for kids because of its diet. See how we've just parsed out these 2 different topic sentences directly from the thesis. Don't worry if it sounds redundant right now. We're not going to leave it like that. We're going to revise it further. But this helps us know when we're making our outline that we have all those parts in these very important topic sentences that will signal to our reader that you're moving on from one section of your paper to the next. So it's important in these very section-heavy topic sentences that you do always have the topic, the reason, and the claim in those topic sentences to signal to your reader that you're moving on to the next point of your paper. Revised topic sentence outline. Okay, so when we go to revise our topic sentence outline, it's important to start with what we already had, our very simple thesis with the topic, claim, and reasons outlined, and then our sort of redundant topic sentences that just restate exactly in the same order the topic, claim, and reasons. What happens next is you want to restate the topic, claim, and reason, but you want to reword each of those topic sentences to avoid redundancy. And then you also want to make sure that the thesis reason number 2, your second reason of support for your thesis, links with a transitional phrase back to the first reason. And this would be true even if you were adding on reasons. You want to add transitional phrases to subsequent reasons of support to help link back to the things that you were saying before. This gives better coherence to your papers. Revise to avoid redundancy. How do we do that? Well, some tips are to rework the syntax, use synonyms, and be specific. So if you start out with the one that's redundant, right? Cookie Monster's not a positive role model for kids because of his grammar. Then you can take it and sort of switch those components around. It doesn't have to be in the same order anymore. Okay? You might reword it to say something like, because of his non-standard grammar, Cookie Monster fails at being an appropriate role model for children. So when we look at this, the first thing you notice is that the reason begins this topic sentence. But you notice it's very similar to what we had before. We've just enhanced it a bit. We've added the modifier non-standard to grammar. Otherwise, it's similar. Then you'll also notice, look, Cookie Monster's still there. But now he's further into the sentence because that dependent clause begins the sentence. And then when we look at our claim, you see that it's been reworded. Instead of saying is not a positive role model for kids, we've said fails at being an appropriate role model for children. See how it maintains the same sort of feel, it maintains the same meaning, but it doesn't sound exactly the same. That's what you want to do when you revise to avoid. Let's move on to linking to previous reasons. So as we are developing this outline, when we're revising our second or third or fourth or whatever topic sentence, we want to not only reword it so it doesn't sound exactly the same, we want to avoid redundancy, but we also want to add in transitions to link to the reasons that have come before. I've given you all a handout called Transitional Phrases Between or Among Paragraphs, and this gives you some examples of transitions that you can use for this endeavor. For this paper, your thesis reason number 2 should be linked to the previous reason, which is thesis reason 1. And if you recall, in this example we're using, grammar is the first reason why we are pairing our topic and claim together, and diet is the second reason why. So if we were to reword our second thesis in support, or second topic sentence in support of our thesis, it might say something like this. Not only is Cookie Monster a bad role model for kids because of his grammar, but also he's a poor role model due to his unhealthy eating habits. Now you notice here a couple of things. One, it doesn't sound exactly like the thesis. Two, we are transitioning back to the first reason. The way we're transitioning is with this not only, but also transitional phrase. This construction allows us to contain both the previous reason and the new reason within the same sentence. And you can see that because we've got grammar included in this sentence and the reworded phrase unhealthy eating habits, which refers to the second thesis reason of diet. So here we have linked to our previous section and moved it forward without being redundant. So now we have a revised basic topic sentence outline. We have our thesis, and we've got our thesis reason of support, that topic sentence, revised, and the second revised. So you can see that all of our topic sentences have restated the topic, claim, and the reason, but they've reworded them to avoid redundancy. We also notice that the thesis reason of support number 2 uses transitions to link to the previous reason. And if we have this, we are ready to move on to the next step in creating our outline. Add counterargument to your outline. Now it's time to add counterargument to our outline because we are not only writing about one side of this issue. So if we start here with this outline, then the first thing we want to do is add counterargument before our thesis. So for us, that might look like this. Although some believe he's a positive role model, See how that's just a very simple dependent clause that introduces the thesis. Cookie Monster then is still the grammatical subject of the sentence, even if the counterargument comes first. Now the counterargument generally comes first so that you are leaving the idea with your argument. We often have heard that adage of saving the best for last, so that's kind of what we follow here when creating these kinds of persuasive arguments. The next thing we want to do is add the counter argument topic sentence between your topic sentence for thesis reason of support 1 and thesis reason of support 2. And we'll use a concession phrase for our counter argument. So for example, here we have the concession phrase, "to be fair." That signals to your reader that you are moving to the opposite side of your argument, to the counter-argument. So it reads, "To be fair, others argue that Cookie Monster is a positive role model for kids because he develops strong friendships." Now you'll notice here in this particular part of our outline, we have given a reason of support for the counter-argument. In the body of your outline, you would want to have your reasons of support for your counterargument. However, you don't want to put those above your thesis at the beginning of your paper. The reason being that if you put too many reasons for the counterargument at the beginning of your paper, it starts to get muddled as to which side of the argument you're on. Are you arguing that he's positive, or are you arguing that he's negative? So at the beginning of your paper, you admit the counterargument, but you only give their topic and claim, you don't give the reasons. By giving the topic and claim and your reasons of support, that shows a stronger argument and indicates your thesis. Develop topic sentence, keyword, and quote outline. So now we're going to develop our outline a little bit more robustly. You will notice that I have given you some outline templates in the activity guidelines. I almost always do this. It's a way to help you figure out how to do this outline activity. So the first thing you'll notice is your student information with the course section, assignment name, and the date. And of course, you're going to use the header of your last name and page number as inserted into the header in Microsoft Word. Then the next thing you'll notice here is that I've asked you to label your counterargument at the top of the page. Every time you have a new outline assignment, I will ask you to do this for me. And often I break up the outline assignments into multiple weeks. After that counterargument, you'll notice that I've given you the thesis. That's where you will put your complete thesis as approved by me earlier in the semester, or as we've been working on throughout the semester. Now for some of you, your counterargument and thesis might be combined into a complete sentence, sort of like the one we looked at just a minute ago, where it said, although some believe he's a good role model, Cookie Monster is a poor role model for kids because of his diet and manners, or whatever our reasons are. If you have those two things combined, then you can just label it as thesis. But ultimately the idea here is for you to have it clear in your head what is your counterargument and what is your thesis labeled at the beginning of your outline. Then you'll notice you're going to signal that you've got a new section of your paper. This is where you're going to put the topic sentence that you have revised to avoid redundancy. And in the sequencing of your reasons to support your thesis, generally you want to put your weakest reason first. Okay, so you would add in your revised topic sentences as we just went over earlier in this presentation. Next, you're going to add in your reasons of support. Now these reasons of support should be keywords and phrases for your details of what you're going to be talking about in your paper. I do not want complete sentences here. Okay, I really want key words and phrases. It's going to help me be able to see and visualize your paper in pieces and chunks and to have an idea of the sequencing of your ideas. I don't need every twist and turn yet. Right now, I need broad strokes of just what supporting detail you're going to put in which section. Now, I might also mention that these supporting details, maybe you'll have 2 for this first reason of support. Maybe you'll have 5, I don't know, but you will use it in this sort of pattern here. With your outline, with your first, second, third, or whatever supporting details. And again, I want to reiterate that they should be keywords and phrases, not complete sentences. Next, you'll notice that under each one of those keywords and phrases, I'm asking you to insert a quote or paraphrase with the in-text citation for that quote or paraphrase. So essentially what you're going to be doing is you've done your research already, and now you're going to pull those quotes into the outline and put the in-text citation. That will help you when you go to write the paper later because you don't have to go back flipping through all of your sources trying to find that one quote that you thought you liked. This way you've already sort of embedded them into the outline, into your roadmap for your paper. Then you'll notice that I've given you some placeholders. I'm asking you in your essays to use the quotation sandwich, which asks you to introduce your quote, give the quote, and then explain the quote. I am asking you to leave these placeholders for introducing and explaining your quotes so that you remember when you actually go to write your paper to do those rhetorical moves. I don't expect you to actually explain here in your outline, and that's because your explanation is going to be much more than just one word. Now, if you wanted to use a keyword or phrase, that would be fine, but I don't want big long sentences here in the outline. In fact, the only complete sentences I want are your thesis, your topic sentences, and any quote that you include in the outline. Everything else should be keywords or phrases or a placeholder like these ones that explain the quote or paraphrase. Next is another placeholder. One of the biggest problems students often have in their papers is they forget to connect their reason, connect their evidence back to their claim. So they might spend a whole several pages talking about how Cookie Monster's grammar is so bad, but they forget to then explain why that bad grammar is related to children and how it makes him a bad role model. So by putting this placeholder there, it should help you remember, oh shoot, I need to write a paragraph about connecting why all this evidence I just had relates back to the claim of my paper. And finally, at the end of your outline, you're going to include a works cited for the sources that you've actually pulled in. And that's important. I want you to do that now because it helps you keep track of what sources you're using so that you can have that works cited page kind of up to date as you move along. Well, that's it for this presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to call me on my office phone or email me at vpel@ccc.edu. I look forward to working with you as we continue to develop your essay outline. Thank you.